Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Welcome to this podcast. I appreciate the fact that you take time to come and stop by. I'd like to thank Her Excellency Roxanne de Bilderling, the Belgian ambassador to Kenya, for the invitation to lunch yesterday. The Secretary of State for Foreign Trade, Peter de Crème, interesting fellow, I sat next to him actually, previously Minister of Defense, had lots of NATO meetings in the US and was describing those to me, meetings with Clinton, with Obama. He was Defense Minister for 10 years, and John Kerry and others, and had some very deep insights into events as we're currently finding them. So it was a pleasure meeting His Excellency, the Secretary of State. Serge B., whom I met many yonks ago, at a beach hotel in Mombasa with his wife and young son, tweeted me. Ali can't censor his social media because I was tweeting what the Secretary of State was saying at lunch. My piece over the weekend was when Beijing came to Washington. Do have a read if you haven't had a look yet. And in that I was saying how Xi Jinping's signal was practically drowned out by the Pope in particular. And then Speaker Bono's resignation. Going back to the Pope, the Associated Press tweeted, "Pope uses popularity to chart new direction for Catholic Church," and I think he really has been an extraordinary charismatic figure in our century. Macro thoughts return to my story from August when I said the end is nigh. If you look at the markets, it certainly feels like that. Home thoughts, my favourite quote is Vinod Khosla, who bagged $1 billion at Sun Microsystems in Silicon Valley, who said the future is not seen in the rearview mirror. New scientist, NASA's major announcement, liquid water has been spotted in these Martian hills. Sébastien Lebigon, who I follow on Twitter, posted this photograph of the eclipse of the total moon. Of course, it was way too cloudy in Nairobi, I didn't see a thing. And then I couldn't resist this photograph, Druridge Bay, Northumberland. Knowing where Northumberland is, it must be pretty cold. Crowds of naked people take part in the northeast skinny dip at sunrise to try to break a world record and raise money for Mind and the National Trust. Political reflections, Taliban score first major victory since 2001 as Kunduz falls. This would be a major blow to Ghani's administration and a big psychological success for the Taliban. Tuesday marks the first anniversary of Ghani assuming office. My conclusions are the Taliban were in fact never defeated. They just melted into the shadows. And now they are back. The US-Russian summit lasted 94 minutes, more than half an hour longer than planned, on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. And I couldn't resist watching it all yesterday. It really was sort of, with a few exceptions, an alpha male rollout, wasn't it? Particularly Obama and Putin. Putin emerged from a rare face-to-face meeting with Obama on Monday night, saying Russia and the US could find a way to work together in Syria, despite deep differences over the country's leadership. Russian leader described the conversation with Obama as very constructive, businesslike, and very frank. We had some points in common, and we had differences, Putin said. I think there is still a way we can work together on the problems we all face. He rejected calls early in the day from Obama and the French President François Hollande for Assad to stand down as part of a concerted campaign against Islamic State and other violent extremists. I respect my colleagues, the US President and the French President, but I don't think they are Syrian citizens. So I don't think they should be deciding on who should lead Syria. Let me put up a photograph of Obama and Putin. Toast during a luncheon hosted by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. President Obama I like this comment. The strong men of today become the spark of revolution tomorrow, occasionally with some assistance in their toppling. Max Kaiser, rather harsh. Obama is a self-hating regime changer. The White House, we must give expression to our best hopes, not our deepest fears. That was a tweet quoting the president. Putin, Islamic State seeking dominance in the Islamic world. He asked at one point, who is manipulating whom? And he says, restore statehood in order to solve refugee problem, which is, I think, got a lot of merit. The UN spokesperson, we're living through a time of severe test and great opportunity. Banking union. And let me leave you with one final story. Al Jazeera News, Saudi forces kill ISIL suspects in Riyadh and in Daman. And I said the barbarians are no longer at the gate. They're on the inside. Currency markets, when I came in, the euro was at 112.63, we're now at 112.50. Dollar index probably around 95.85. Japanese yen earlier 119.50. Swissy 0.9722. The pound 151.84. Aussie 0.6950. India rupee, they cut 50 basis points. So early in the morning we were at 66.255. I'll have to check again. South Korean won 11.9629. The Rial back over 4.1070. Egyptian pound 7.8275, and the Rand 14.1187. Not looking good. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. I think you buy the dip for a move through 100. Euro dollar 112.63. It's become like a safe haven proxy. When markets sell off, the euro tends to strengthen. Equity markets, I mean. Sam Miller jumps on speculation of imminent offer from AB InBev. That was yesterday. Stock gained as much as 4.3%. Apple sold 13 million iPhones in its weekend debut. Sales for iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus have been phenomenal, blowing past any previous first weekend sales results in Apple's history, said the CEO Tim Cook in a statement. I'll put up a photograph I took of the Maasai discovering my kids' iPad and the Sava a few years ago. Of course, it's ubiquitous now. And a photograph of the sunset on Christmas Day in Savo East at the Lugard Falls because of the Savo connection. Holger, VW Fallout Credit Investors Dump Germany Inc., ThyssenKrupp, and Volkswagen default probability jumped to greater than 23%, RWE to greater than 14%. Great story about the $1 million per week super yachts at the Monaco Yacht Show. This is on Bloomberg. The link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Commodity markets. Holger asks, the Lehman of the commodity complex, Glencore shares dropped 27% in Hong Kong. A little bit of a bounce going on this morning. It's fair to say the marketing segment is a black box, referring to the Glencore trading unit. They disclose the volumes they transact, but not what sort of bets they've been making. There could be so many bets that it's difficult to distill down to a couple of data points. That being said, there hasn't been much transparency regarding it. Ivan Glazenberg, of course, sits at the apex of Glencore and he's running out of luck. Jamie at Reuters, 80 pence, this was yesterday. Glencore share at IPO 542 pence. On the 3rd of November, I wrote a piece saying the commodity super cycle is dead in the water. Glencore is clearly a casualty of that. Commodities may be in the 4th year of a 20-year bear super cycle, according to an August 14 research note. Analysts looked at commodity busts dating to the 18th century, found them driven by factors such as market momentum rather than fundamentals. Gold, let me put up a 3-month chart of that. We're around 1125.85. It was repelled again by that 1150, 1155 level I've spoken about previously. Crude oil, $44.45. Put up a 6-month chart of that. I don't think that's going to run away to the upside anytime soon. Reserve Bank of India cuts its repo rate by 50 basis points. Clearly slowing down over there. Let's move on to Africa. From that lunch, and I won't mention who told me, but entirely reliably, I learned that East African EAC imports Q3 compared to a year ago are down 15%. Pretty dramatic. Earlier this morning, Zero Hedge tweeted CNOOC drops as much as 7.6% to lowest since March 2009. Big player in the East African oil and gas sector, and this is not going to be helpful and therefore quite relevant to East African oil and gas. France 24 manifestation contre le coup d'état constitutionnel de Sassou Nguesso, Brazzaville, biggest march in about 20 years in response to the president wanting to seek a third term. Jamie McGeever, Zambia's Kwacha, dropped up to 17% at one point versus the dollar yesterday as copper falls and shares in Glencore collapse. Glencore is planning to lay off 3,800 workers at Zambian mines. I spoke about this risk in a piece on the 8th of June, Sub-Saharan African currency bloodbath, I called it. Burkina Faso's powerful presidential guard is resisting efforts to disarm it after carrying out a short-lived coup against the transitional government this month, Army's chief of staff said. But essentially, I think the net result is that the street won this one. Burundi has seen an alarming upsurge in arrests, detentions, killings since the start of the month. This is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zaid Rad Al Hussein, said. UN human rights officers registered 134 killings since unrest in Burundi began in April, as well as hundreds of arbitrary arrests and detention, including 704 in September alone. David Smith tweeted from a comment of Julius Malema, "This country is going to explode one day because we like to pretend everything is fine. It's not fine. People's anger is boiling." I'd agree with him. South African oil shares down 0.56%. Dollar rand, let me put up a 6-month chart. We're now falling right out of bed here at 14.11. 15 looks as if it's a shoo-in. Egyptian pound, they're holding it at 783. Egyptian stock market bounced 0.85% yesterday, but it's still down 17% year to date. Nigerian oil share down 11.23% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 9.9% year to date. Ghana is planning to raise $1 billion in a Eurobond sale this week. Interestingly, look at this photograph that Bloomberg had. Ghana Finance Minister Seth Turkper, second left, shaking hands with Dana Hyde, CEO of the Millennium Challenge Corporation, after signing the Ghana Compact during ceremonies in Washington, D.C. Notice Kerry was there, so pretty heavily invested in getting Ghana back on track. US, the IMF has come through. They've got a $400 million guarantee for this particular Eurobond. So there's been a lot of support. Coming to Kenya, big news yesterday. Unbanked Kenyans to trade government bonds from their phones. Kenyans will soon be able to buy fixed income government bonds from their mobile phones, a move that will deepen access to financial services in East Africa's biggest economy, while also giving Treasury a cheaper source of funding. Residents will be able to open central bank depository accounts from their phones without visiting a bank or broker, and can then buy government paper for as little as 3,000 shillings, which is $28. Product named M Akiba, derived from the Swahili word for savings, will run on Kenya's biggest mobile phone company's mobile money platform. And the 5 billion shilling infrastructure bond will be open on October the 21st and will be the inaugural M Akiba offer. John Aglianby, a friend who writes at the FT, Kenya Central Bank has raised interest rates 300 basis points to 11.5% since May to defend the shilling, which has weakened 14% this year against the dollar, not as bad as the Kwacha, which weakened that amount in one day. The Kenyan government debt yield curve is currently inverted. Higher rates are higher than middle and longer term rates. Government said key motivations of the Akiba bond were to boost public savings and participation in the capital markets. Akiba means savings in Swahili. I said I expect the initiative to work. What's proven is that the mobile phone is a very effective channel in Kenya, and there's enough money floating around under the mattress or in the mobile money system that would find this attractive. KCB received a stable rating from Moody's. KCB standalone baseline credit assessment of is currently placed at the same level as the government bond rating, so at the same rating as the sovereign, which is good. If you haven't seen that interview I did with Joshua, have a look at it. KCB's up 11.36% this month, actually. Kenya shilling 105.255. Nairobi all share is down 9.08% so far this year. NSE 20 down 17.73% so far this year. I wrote yesterday that the challenge for the stock market is going to be some very high and handsome rates that the government of Kenya is offering across the maturity curve. Normally you see a flight into the bond market away from the equity market in those scenarios, but let's see how it plays out. Safaricom firmed 0.33% yesterday, up 5.55% this month. As I said, KCB's up 11.36% this month. Equity up 12.26% this month. Overdue a breather. East African Cables announced the appointment of Peter Arena Esquire as its CEO, eased back 0.43%, down 29.01% year to date. Total, big gainer, up 7.03% yesterday. BAT, which surged 6.67% on Friday, was low ticked 1.5%, it closed at 788. And Flametree Group was high ticked plus 8.57%. But the issue here is really, are these rates that the government is currently paying here to stay? Is it just a blip? That should really inform one's thinking around the stock market at the moment. Once again, thank you for coming by. Do bear in mind, we're back, Mindspeak is back on the 10th with Pradeep Panrana, the CEO and MD of Arthur River Cement, who's got a very interesting story to tell, not least of which he described to me how he'd come back. I think it was Slade in New York, where he'd be studied, and his father meets him, gives him the keys to the office, says, "You're in charge," and then promptly leaves. And that's how Pradeep started his career. It's quite a story, and it's a very successful business. Cement, clinker, lots of insights. He's head of CAM, chairman of CAM as well. So do come on the 10th. And then we've got 2 further Mindspeaks in the month. So once again, thank you for stopping by.